Hey you all, this is just a little refresher for your Photopea portrait project. By now you probably have already completed your project, but this is just a way to go over and make sure you've got all the different parts. So just remember, to start your project, you go up to Open, File, Open, and you find your image of the person you'd like to tribute for this project. In this case, I'm selecting Trayvon Martin, one of the boys who was killed by a white supremacist in Florida back in like 2013. So I've imported his picture. And then the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to use my lasso tool, which is the drop-down menu, second tool down. And I'm going to carefully, for the sake of this demo, I'm going to do it a little faster, cut out Trayvon so that I'm removing the background. He's the center of my project. Go around, and I'm just clicking and dragging my mouse as I almost like cut it out with a pair of scissors. And then at the bottom of my screen, it doesn't matter where the line is because you're not going to see the bottom anyways. Just make sure the end of your line connects to the beginning of your line. And then you're going to get a set of dotted lines. That means that that image is selected. So now I want to cut out the background. If I hit backspace on my keyboard right now, what happens is I accidentally cut out him. I don't want to cut out the person, I want the background. So instead of doing that, I'm going to do undo, which is Command Z. And anytime you get stuck, you hit Command Z, or you can come up to Edit, Undo. And instead of just deleting, I'm going to come up to Select, and I'm going to select the inverse. So I want the reverse. I don't want to cut out Trayvon, I want to cut out the background. So I go select the inverse, which means the background. Now the background's selected, then I can hit backspace on my keyboard. There we go. Okay, so I've cut out my background. That's the first step. To get rid of those dotted lines and unselect, you go up to Select, Deselect. And now we're just left with Trayvon. Later, you're going to add a background. Right now, you just stick with what you have. The next step is to get your eraser tool, which is hiding under your paintbrush. Oh, looks like I'm missing my eraser tool on this computer. Oh, I lied. Okay, here it is. Eraser tool right here. For some of you, it might be hiding under your paintbrush. Others, your tools might be set out a little bit differently. All your tools are going to be on the left-hand side. So if you're looking for a tool, it's over here. So here is my eraser tool, and I want to just clean up my edges here. So I just go ahead and erase over these lines. Now, right now, this size of my eraser is really, really small. I want to make it bigger so I can clean up more area at a time. So what I can do is, if you look on your keyboard, there's two little buttons next to the letter P. They're bracket buttons. If I click on the left or the right bracket button, it will make your brush size or your eraser size bigger. If I click on the right bracket, it'll make it smaller. Okay, that's like a shortcut to change the size of your brush. The other thing you can do is you can always come up to the top here. On this top menu, there's this drop down, this little circle. This changes the size of your brush as well. Okay. I like to just do it with the shortcut so that I don't have to click on a bunch of different icons. Okay, so you're going to clean up the edges of your background, make sure that's all gone, so that you're just left with your person. Oops. And if you accidentally go into their face a little bit, remember Command Z will undo, and you can undo your mistake. Okay, so I'm just going to keep cleaning this up. You're going to take a lot more time. Make sure it's good. Now, if you want to zoom in, I'm going to Command Z undo. I can't see what I'm doing, so I'm going to come down to the zoom tool at the very bottom. Click on this zoom tool and then select anywhere on top of my photo, and it will zoom me into a section that I want. And if you need to zoom out, up top here, there's a little minus button. If I click minus, it will zoom me back out. Plus will zoom me in. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to get my eraser tool again. Clean up this section right here. Okay, you get the idea. You're going to take a lot more time on this. Imagine that I've cleaned up everything. Okay, so it's looking good. We just have him. Did too much there. All right. Now, you've erased all the portions you need to erase. The next step is the most important step. Listen carefully. you need to add a transparent layer that lies on top of your photo, because when you go to trace and create your animations, you're going to be tracing on a transparent layer and not directly on the photo. If you click on the photo and are tracing on the photo, your animation is not going to work and you will have done a ton of work for nothing. Okay, so make sure the next step, you click on layer right here, new layer. See how a new layer pops up right over here? That means that's your transparent layer. If it's a checkered background, that means it's transparent. Alternatively, you can come up to layer, new layer. Okay, right like that. So now I've got my background layer, which is my photo, and a transparent layer. For the sake of this project, I'm just gonna delete this top layer. There's a little trash can right there. So yours should look like this. You should just have 2 layers going on, okay? And this is the layer that you're gonna start drawing on. Okay, so the big tools that you're going to be using for drawing are going to be your paintbrush right here, your paintbrush tool. And you might also be using your paint bucket. But let's start with your paintbrush. What I like to do is use my paintbrush and kind of do the outlines, the details first, and then I'll go back in and shade it in. So again, your brush size is up top. You can change the size of your brush. You can also change the hardness. So sometimes a softer brush might look nice. Like in certain areas, you might want a little like soft blended kind of brush, or you might want it to do a hard edge, like an outline. You would make it more of a hard edge. And this hardness slider will change that, whether your brush is like a softer, kind of more like spray paint, or hard like a pencil or something like that. So we're gonna start there. And then you're gonna use a couple tools in tandem. So I've got my paintbrush, but now say like I wanna start, maybe I wanna paint in his lips first. I'm gonna use my eyedropper tool, which is right here, eyedropper. And what it does is it allows you to take a sample of the image, and it will, your palette will change to that color when you use this tool. So right now my color palette's red. I don't need red. So I'm going to use my color eyedropper, and I'm going to click anywhere on his lips, and notice that my color palette has changed to that exact lip color just by clicking down. So you're going to use your eyedropper tool, click on his lips, and now go back to your paintbrush, and you can start kind of tracing in, coloring in on top of that area that is that color. Now be sure to kind of look at, as you're drawing, there's different tones, right? Not all of his face is one tone. He's got tans and browns and dark areas, right? There's a little bit of shadow on his face. So you want to make sure that you're, you can make your brush smaller. You want to make sure that you're kind of honoring the different tones and sections that you see. Now, it's going to look a mess while you're doing it, but trust the process. As Kiana says, it's going to come out great in the end, okay? So then keep going back using your eyedropper. Click on a different area. This looks like a darker area, okay? So I've done that. I'll go back to my paintbrush, and I'm going to make my paintbrush a little bit bigger. Got a little bit of shading over here. Make it a little bit thinner. Line. You might even want to get in and do, this is actually a challenging photo because there is a lot of shadow. So it's not kind of the best example right now, but you get the idea. You want to kind of pick different areas that you want to start with, and use your eyedropper in tandem with your paintbrush, okay? And take your time. Just do different sections. And then, like I said, if you want to come up here, maybe you want a softer brush, just slide your slider down, and then you can kind of come in, and it looks a little bit lighter like that. Kind of like a more blended option. Then you can get like the color of his eyebrows. Done that. Paintbrush. Zoom in. If you need to zoom in, use your zoom tool. Okay, I'm gonna get that paintbrush, and I'm gonna make it small. again, it's gonna look kind of silly as you do it, and then when it's finally finished, we'll add filters and it will start to blend a little bit better. Okay, but for now, just kind of get in there and get your details. Now, every once in a while, you want to check and make sure that what you're doing is that you're actually drawing on the transparent layer, because if you did all this work and you were drawing on your background, that it's not going to work. So what I want you to do to check is you can let me zoom out. I can click on my background layer and click on the visibility, this eyeball, so that I remove the background for a minute to see what my progress is. So that you can tell right there where you're at with your sketch. And that's every once in a while you want to check your progress and make sure you're drawing on the right layer. And if you were to uncheck this photo and nothing was there, that would mean you were actually drawing on the photo and then you want to start over. Okay, so make sure you're on your background layer. Okay, so, and that means that you got to highlight. Now, I'm going to show you the next thing is if you want to do larger sections of your sketch, like for instance, his hat, that's a pretty big area and it's kind of similar. I'm going to use my magic wand tool right here. It's the third tool down. And what you can do is you actually have to select the photo this time. So select the photo, and what the magic wand allows you to do is select a large portion of the screen all at one time. So see how when I just click down, I'll show you again, his entire hat gets selected. You can then also hold shift and get more areas. Like if I hold shift, it looks like I got the majority of his hat selected. Now what I can do is grab my eyedropper tool, select the color of his hat so that my, I don't know if that works, let's see. Oops, hold on. Okay, select that, get the eyedropper, go back to your original layer because you don't want to fill it in on your photo, remember. So once you've selected the hat or the area that you want to select, go back to the original layer, use your eyedropper, change the color, and then this is the next tool you're going to use. It's hiding under this gradient tool. This gradient tool, it just looks like a square. The paint bucket is right there. This allows you to dump a whole bunch of paint in one area at one time. So see, when I just click down anywhere in the highlighted area, it fills in his entire hat. And then I can go deselect, and then I can check my progress. See, there we go. So now I've done the majority of his hat in one click. So that's how you can kind of get more areas in detail. I'll show you again. If I click on the background, I go to my magic wand, I'm going to select his shirt, hold down shift, get more of his areas of his shirt. Okay, I'm going to go back to the transparent layer, use my eyedropper tool, select the color that I want, and then use your paint bucket tool and click anywhere in the highlighted area. And then check your progress. Oh, it didn't work. Does anybody know why? Because I was accidentally selecting the background layer. So I need to undo that. And when I go to use my paintbrush, I need to make sure that my transparent layer's selected. Then I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool and drop it in there. Okay, and then check your progress. There we go. Now it worked. Okay, select, deselect. So eventually what's going to happen is you're going to finish your portrait, and you're going to want to start to add a new background layer, which means you're going to add another transparent layer. And you're going to be pulling this layer underneath your transparent layer. So your sketch should be on top, your photo should be on the very bottom, and in between is your new background layer. And what you can do here, and imagine that you've already removed your photo. When you select your background layer, you can create different kinds of background colors and add text to your photo. So for instance, if you use this gradient tool, and I'm going to show you another video that will go more into detail. Right here, gradient tool, I might want to, and I'm going to zoom out, I might want to create a gradient background. If I select that and I can do this drop down menu up top, I can click any kind of these different gradients, like maybe I want this kind of color. What a gradient does is it basically, it's kind of shades of different color along a gradient. And if I draw the gradient direction, like if I want the gradient to go from the top to the bottom, I would just draw the line there, and it will shade it in, it will apply that background. So that's how you're going to add a background to your image. I could Command on Z. If you want that same gradient, but you want the gradient to go horizontal or vertical, you could do it like that. Command Z, or maybe you want it to go horizontal, you draw it that section. Okay, so that's how you will end up creating your background, and you're going to be adding text. So your text tool is this T, and remember, you double click on your screen, and then you're going to write the name of the person you're honoring, Trayvon Martin, and his age. And I don't remember, and I'm going to have to look that up. And then you want to highlight that text. You want to change the size so it's visible. You want to change the font to something that looks interesting to you, that matches with your design. So I can come up here and scroll down, see a whole bunch of different options. Let's see what I like. Maybe I'll just do this for now. And then if you want to move it around the screen, you have to wait to hover over your text, and your mouse should turn into a little crosshair like that, like cross. That means you can move it. So you can move it to the section that you want it, and then also change the color to make sure it's a light color on a dark background or a dark color on a light background, so that and click off of it to be able to see. There we go. Trayvon Martin 13, and you can also make it like bold. And then if you would like to, you can also create other text about this person. So I'm gonna move, say I wanted to say something about maybe a quote by the person you're honoring, or just a memory that you have of them that you wrote in your planning document. You can always come back and add more text and be typing in whatever your quote is by them. And then once we display these, you will have the person's name, their age, and then something important that you want to add about them. Okay, so that's how you go and experiment with your background and text. You can also do colored backgrounds if you want to just use the paint bucket and have it a solid color, or you can import different other images if you want. Come see me if you want to get more advanced in this program. Okay, so don't forget to the last step, and while you're working, is to save as a PSD at some point, and that will drop down into your downloads folder. And then every once in a while, as you make changes, do save. And then your final image, you're going to export as a JPEG, which I'll do right now just to show you. Save. Okay, and that is your project. Good luck. Have fun working on it.